I've always been obsessed with my wife's hair. It's long and dark with a natural wave that I love to run my fingers through. I love the way it smells, like wildflowers and sunshine. And I love the way it looks when she wears it up or when it falls loose around her shoulders. But there's one thing about my wife's hair that I love even more. The way it looks after she gets it cut. She always gets a trim, but every once in a while she'll do something more drastic like a new color or a shorter style. And every time she gets a new haircut, I'm always amazed at how beautiful she looks. I think it's because a new haircut is a sign of change. It's a way for my wife to express herself and to try something new. And I love seeing her take that kind of risk. I remember the first time my wife got a new haircut. We were still dating, and she had always worn her hair long, but one day she decided to cut it all off. She went to a salon and got a pixie cut, and I was blown away. She looked so different, but so beautiful. I love seeing my wife with different hairstyles. I love the way they change her look and her personality. And I love the way they make her feel confident and beautiful. I know that my wife doesn't get her hair cut just to please me. She does it for herself because she wants to look and feel her best. And I love that about her. But I can't help but admit that I have a secret fantasy. I would love to see my wife with a really short haircut, something like a buzz cut or a mohawk. I know it's a crazy idea, but I think it would look amazing on her. I know she would never do it. She's too conservative and too afraid of what people would think. But I can dream, right? In the meantime, I'll just have to enjoy her long, beautiful hair. And I'll always be excited to see her new haircut, no matter what it is. But one day I came home from work and found a postcard on the kitchen table. It was from my wife's hair salon, reminding her of her appointment the next day. I immediately felt a surge of anxiety and anticipation. I've always been fascinated by haircutting. I love the way it can transform a person's appearance, both physically and emotionally. And I've always been curious to see what my wife would look like with a short haircut. I knew that she was planning on getting a trim, but I couldn't help but hope that she would go for something more drastic. I fantasized about her with a pixie cut or even a buzz cut. I knew it was a long shot, but I couldn't help but dream. The next day, I took my wife to the salon. She was a little nervous, but I tried to reassure her. I told her that she would look beautiful no matter what she did. When we got to the salon, the stylist asked my wife what she wanted. She said that she was thinking about getting a trim, but she was open to suggestions. The stylist showed her a few different pictures, and she eventually decided on a short bob. I was a little disappointed that she didn't go for something more drastic, but I was still excited to see the new haircut. The stylist worked her magic, and within an hour, my wife had a brand new haircut. It was shorter than she had ever worn it before, but it still looked amazing. I couldn't believe how beautiful she looked. The new haircut had a way of making her face look even more radiant, and her eyes seemed to sparkle. I told her how much I loved the new haircut, and she smiled. She said that she was glad that I liked it. We left the salon and went home. I couldn't stop staring at my wife. She looked so different, but so beautiful. I knew that I would never get tired of seeing her with her new haircut. It was the perfect way to show off her natural beauty. The next day, I woke up to the smell of coffee brewing. I got out of bed and went to the kitchen where my wife was already up. She was wearing a robe and her hair was still wet from the shower. "Good morning," I said. "Good morning," she said. "How did you sleep?" "I slept well," I said. "I'm still in awe of your new haircut." She smiled. "Thank you," she said. "I'm glad you like it." I made us breakfast and we sat down at the table to eat. As we ate, I couldn't help but stare at my wife. She looked so beautiful with her new haircut. The short bob framed her face perfectly, and her eyes seemed to sparkle. After breakfast, I went to work and my wife went to the grocery store. When she got home, she was carrying a bag of groceries. She put the bag down on the counter and turned to me. "I have a surprise for you," she said. She reached into the bag and pulled out a pair of scissors. "What are those for?" I asked. "I'm going to cut your hair," she said. I was surprised. I had never had my hair cut by my wife before. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" I asked. "Of course I am," she said. "I've been watching YouTube videos." I laughed. "Okay," I said. "I'm game." My wife took a seat in the kitchen chair, and I sat down next to her. She combed my hair and then started cutting. She was surprisingly good at it. She cut my hair in a short, stylish style. When she was finished, she stepped back to admire her work. "I think it looks great," she said. I looked in the mirror and agreed. I looked different, but I also looked good. "Thank you," I said. "I love it." My wife smiled. "You're welcome," she said. I hugged her, and we kissed. I was so happy with my new haircut. I loved the way it looked, and I loved the way it made me feel. But most of all, I loved the fact that my wife had cut it for me. It was a special gift, and I would never forget it. The next day, I went to work with my new haircut. I was a little nervous, but I was also excited. I couldn't wait to see what my coworkers thought. When I walked into the office, everyone stopped what they were doing to stare at me. "What happened to your hair?" one of my coworkers asked. "My wife cut it for me," I said. "It looks great," another coworker said. "I love it," I said. I spent the rest of the day getting compliments on my new haircut. I was so happy that I had let my wife cut it. She had done a great job, and I loved the way it looked. That night, when I got home from work, my wife was waiting for me at the door. "How did your haircut go?" she asked. "It was a hit," I said. "Everyone loved it," she smiled. "I'm glad," she said. I hugged her, and we kissed. I was so happy with my new haircut. I loved the way it looked, and I loved the way it made me feel. But most of all, I loved the fact that my wife had cut it for me. It was a special gift, and I would never forget it. The next few days, I continued to get compliments on my new haircut. I was starting to feel more confident than ever before. I felt like I could take on the world. One day, I was walking down the street when I saw a woman who was also wearing a short haircut. She looked so confident and beautiful. I couldn't help but stare at her. When she saw me staring, she smiled at me. I smiled back. I knew that I would never forget that moment. It was the moment that I realized that I could be confident and beautiful, even with short hair. I'm so grateful to my wife for cutting my hair. It was a gift that changed my life. I continued to wear my short haircut for many years. I loved the way it looked and felt. It made me feel more confident and comfortable in my own skin. One day, my wife and I were talking about our haircuts. She told me that she had always wanted to try a short haircut, but she was afraid of what people would think. I told her that she should go for it. I said that I would love her no matter what her hair looked like. She smiled and said, "Thanks, I think I will." The next day, my wife went to the salon and got a short haircut. She looked amazing. I was so proud of her for taking the plunge. She told me that she felt so much more confident with her new haircut. She said that she felt like she could finally be herself. I was so happy for her. I knew that she had made the right decision. I'm so glad that my wife and I had the courage to change our haircuts. It was a life-changing experience for both of us. We learned that it's okay to be different. We learned that we don't have to conform to society's expectations. We learned that we can be confident and beautiful, no matter what our hair looks like. If you're thinking about changing your haircut, I encourage you to go for it. It might be the best decision you ever make. My wife and I continued to wear our short haircuts for many years. We loved the way they looked and felt. They made us feel more confident and comfortable in our own skin. We often got compliments on our haircuts. People would tell us that we looked so much younger and more stylish. We were always happy to hear these compliments. We also noticed that people treated us differently when we had short haircuts. They were more likely to smile at us and make eye contact. We felt like we were more approachable and likable. We were so glad that we had made the decision to change our haircuts. It was a life-changing experience for both of us. We learned that it's okay to be different. We learned that we don't have to conform to society's expectations. We learned that we can be confident and beautiful, no matter what our hair looks like. If you're thinking about changing your haircut, I encourage you to go for it. It might be the best decision you ever make. One day, my wife and I were walking down the street when we saw a young woman who was also wearing short hair. She looked so confident and beautiful. We couldn't help but smile at her. When she saw us smiling, she smiled back. We stopped to talk to her. We told her about our own experiences with short hair. We told her how much we loved the way it looked and felt. We told her how much more confident and comfortable we felt with short hair. The young woman was so grateful for our advice. She told us that she had been thinking about getting a short haircut, but she was afraid of what people would think. We told her that she should go for it. We said that we would love her no matter what her hair looked like. The young woman smiled and said, "Thanks, I think I will." We watched as the young woman walked away. We were so happy for her. We knew that she was going to love her new haircut. We were also happy for ourselves. We were glad that we had been able to help someone else make a positive change in their life. My wife and I continued to walk down the street hand in hand. We were both so happy with our short haircuts. We knew that we had made the right decision. As we walked, we talked about our lives. We talked about our hopes and dreams. We talked about our fears and insecurities. We talked about everything and nothing. We just talked. And as we talked, I realized something. I realized that I was truly happy. I was happy with my life. I was happy with my wife. I was happy with my short haircut. I had never felt this way before. I had never felt so content and at peace. I knew that this was the way I wanted to live my life. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be content. I wanted to be at peace. And I knew that I could do it. I knew that I could be happy no matter what. I had my wife. I had my short haircut. I had my dreams. I had everything I needed. And I was finally happy.